one of the most powerful things that we get to do. It happens every day, hundreds of times a day. You chose this session. You chose it because of me. You chose it that's a little more enthusiasm. You chose it because of the topic. You chose it because you thought it was an easy class, but you chose this session. This conference is filled with advice on things for you to do, but you have to do something with it, some choices to make it work. Our parents and our mentors have provided advice on what we should do in life. Each of us has a moral compass, a set of values that guides the choices we make in our own personal being. And society has created expectations, norms about how we interact with each other. And then we make choices. And then we say, I would have, but. I wish I could, but. I know we should, but. If it were me, I would, but. But find comfort in the common expectation that life can and should be better. If you don't think that your client would accept how you treat a claimant or a colleague, and it's the right thing to do, I would contend you're probably misreading your client, or if not, they shouldn't be your client. Now I get that it's easier for me to say that inside of Sedgwick than some of you. But find comfort and protection in the policies that our company set. Policies on workplace violence, and physical and emotional abuse, ethics and compliance, sexual harassment policies, policies on entertainment and gift giving and receiving are there for your protection as well as the company. And you can rely on them when you make your choices. So I didn't know if any of you would show up, well, other than the Sedgwick colleagues who had no choice. Or so they thought. This isn't a session on choosing a TPA, or choosing a pricing method, or choosing a managed care partner, or choosing whether or not to use opioids, or set through yet another session on opioids. It's far more important than that. It's about you and your role in our industry, in creating your personal brand, and who you want to be known for and associated with. Now, somewhere soon, you're going to say, this is easy for me to say. I have a title and some success, and you believe it provides me immunity for making a choice that's easier than yours, and you would be mostly wrong. The choices I'm talking about are harder as you go up the ladder. You have more at risk. You have more bosses. You have more people watching and interpreting what you do. And your choices impact more lives. So learn to make good choices that define you throughout your career. Make the important ones now, and we will come to expect that you will make good choices later. Early in my career, a long time ago, 1982 actually, I was 26 years old and I was an up-and-comer. I had a friend at that company, and she sat in an office right next to me. Her name was Jane. She was a director and I was a manager, and yes, she outranked me. One day I was called to the president's office, and I was surprised that I was offered a promotion, and I was made a director. And I was really excited at 26 to become a director of that company. I was handed off to his assistant right outside of his door, and she handed me a set of car keys. I looked at the car keys and I was so excited. She says, I'm really sorry you don't get a chance to choose your first company car, but we have one available, and when this lease is up, you'll get to choose your own. I was overwhelmed. I raced back to Jane's office. She was happy for me. I said, you never told me that you got a company car as a director. And her late face lost her smile. And she said, you didn't know, do you? In that company, along long time ago, the only directors that got cars were men. It was believed that women who could have a husband or choose to have a husband didn't really need a company car. And to this day, I don't know why what happened next happened. But I left her office and I walked back down to that assistant and I gave her the keys. Choosing to do the right thing is sometimes premeditated and sometimes a reaction, but it does help define who you are. Choices have ramifications. They do matter. Choosing not to do something is a choice. Choosing not to do what is right in your belief system is a significant choice. You have chosen not to do what you believe is the right thing, so the right choice is not made. But you've also stated that you don't choose to do the right thing, and that choice will influence people around you in the industry that we work in. And it will influence the next time you make a choice or don't make a choice. They will think that you will act even before you get a chance to choose. For example, do I even take this issue to her since we all know she won't go against the company? Should we even risk this conversation since he always sides with the client? Should we just figure out another way since it involves money and he never would approve that? You gave away your opportunity to choose because you choose in one instance not to choose. In the world of claims, we have choices. We have a variety of statutes and regulations, company guidelines, and client instructions. But if it were that easy, they wouldn't need us. We would program all of that into a machine and move on. The main variable in workers' compensation is that there's an injured worker at the other end of the event that normally did not get hurt intentionally and is not trying to defraud the system. They just got hurt. They have a job, a family, obligations, and a conscience. The system is complicated to us and scary in its unknown to them. We try to simplify. We try to advocate to them. And then we send them 38 pages of required disclosure and ask them to sign their rights and what seems to be in conflict with the calming words of the examiner. It guides their actions, and that guides ours. And all of a sudden, we are assuming the worst. They are acting the worst. And a simple claim is complicated. Our regulations don't end with, and if this regulation does not specifically apply, do the right thing. Our client instructions don't start with, don't forget, these are our employees, and we care about them and their families, and in all circumstances, including when they are injured and can't work and need us the most. I would say to the strong few of us, do the right thing. That doesn't mean breaking rules for breaking rules' sake, or violating regulations, or jeopardizing your license. It means exercising the most precious thing each of us has, choice. Choose to be the colleague you want your company to embrace. Demonstrate the characteristics you want your boss to be. Show our clients that doing the right thing is in almost all cases actually the right thing to do. Demonstrate to your peers that caring about coworkers, partners, and injured workers does count. Three of the most discussed things, not disgusting, sound a little too close. Three of the most discussed things that come to my office are client relationships and pricing, technology, and diversity, people-related issues. I wanted to highlight these three areas because they are indicative of what almost every major employer is facing. And they are areas that don't have clear paths to doing the right things. They don't have a clear answer as to what the right thing to do is until you explore them. I've built a career on selling. I love to be in the deal, to be at the table. I'm pretty good at it. And I leverage the seat that I sit in by telling our clients that if anybody in our organization, I am the one that can keep the promises that we make. But the hardest choices are not related to obtaining a new client. They are deciding not to do business with them anymore. The paragraph describing this session mentioned clients are not profitable. There are choices related to those, but those are relatively simple. You can do the math, and you know whether you're making money or not, regardless of how it may seem. That is the reason that we are in business. This is not a nonprofit enterprise, and even nonprofits have economics. You only have to decide whether this will continue into the future, or whether growth or actions you'll take or influence that you can have will correct the situation, and whether you're willing to wait for that to occur, to wait it out. The real tough choice with clients is to fire one. In my career, it's rarely been profit related. It's been relationship related. It's how our clients treat our colleagues and the ramifications to our organizations. I've only had to do it a few times, but every time is a stark reminder that choosing who not to do business with is far more important than choosing who to do business with. When a bad relationship is underway, it is very visible within the organization. Every day you allow it to exist, it says to your entire organization that you choose to allow it to exist, that it's okay with you, that your colleagues should take the abuse, that you agree with using that tone to speak to your colleagues is okay. But you have a powerful choice. Don't do it. Politely, legally, but directly, exercise your choice to choose not to do business with them. Hell, you chose to do business with them in the first place, and you were fine before that. Choosing to do business without them should be okay. And every time it happened, the perception of me as a leader increased in the eyes of those the relationship was affecting. Doing the right thing as a leader is what is perceived to be what's perceived to be a tough situation is more important than doing the right thing that anybody could do. Now do it cautiously and don't do it too often. My attorneys asked me to say that. Do it with integrity. Be as well informed as you possibly can, but do it. Who knows? Maybe they'll end up with a competitor and irritate the hell out of them, and you'll benefit from that. That's supposed to be funny. Technology is creating moral and ethical challenges to our industry. I believe in data and algorithms and AI. I also believe that investing in technology is a choice not to invest in people. For anyone that manages a P&L, you realize the amazing power of technology comes at a cost. We cannot and will not ignore it, but the decision, the choice to invest in automation is a choice not to invest in people. It's a statement that our customers and the market will applaud, and that we are advanced in our technology footprint and thinking and our products, but our colleagues will be threatened with those very same choices. The candid truth is that we can't invest in everything. And in order to pay for technology, we have to grow faster or reduce expenses to pay for it. These are tough choices, our generation is making them right now. It's an interesting time because right at the time in our history when investing in technology is actually possible, we have new generations of workers that are more me than I ever remember. They're unique, they're career-oriented, they're biased to act, they're respectful of structure and hierarchy, but only if it serves them. They don't want to work at home, but they want a work-like setting at work, home-like setting at work. They want my job, and they probably will be competent to do it soon. They are 8 keystrokes away from knowing everything I know and more, and they demand technology as a way of life. We have to make choices in technology and to balance the needs of our organization and our people. These choices, at least in the short term, may not be aligned. The third diversity is one that I care about personally and is important to our company. Therefore, you would think it would be an easy one. It is easy to talk about. It's easy to reach an agreement on what the problem is and what the objective should be. Doing something about it is far more easily said than done. And I'm assuming here that the issue that we're talking about is not related to a true one-on-one case of discrimination or abuse, where gender or ethnicity or color of one's hair is a reason someone is being denied a fair or safe work environment. In that case, someone is doing something wrong by letting those differences affect how we treat someone fairly, and you need to act. It's much more difficult when you have a hard-working, long-term colleague who wants and probably deserves a promotion, and there's a minority applicant who is equally qualified and applying for the position. Is the right thing to do to pass over the hard-working incumbent to provide more gender diversity? We often say that diversity is important, but always hire the right person. Even that simple statement is often a cover for not doing the right thing, but doing the easy thing. I'm aware that the common thing is now to offer 3 tips on how to make good choices in giving a speech. The truth is that if I did that, you would know how I make good choices, but you would only know how I do that, not how they could apply to you. So you will have to choose whether these are helpful or not for you. No guarantee from me. Preparation, reflection, execution. These sound like classic seminar tips. Don't write them down. These sound like classic seminar tips, but I choose not to go that route. You can find those tips in books on leadership, and you don't need me to prove I read them, and you can recite them to you. I would offer these 3 thoughts, however. Consequences. I don't mean you should have massive anxiety and be apprehensive about every choice. I mean that making a choice is exactly the same as not making a choice. Either you do something or choose not to. And in either circumstance, others observing it, you made a choice. So the moral for me is to choose. Do something. A thoughtful action is better than a passive inaction. You will be judged either way, so you might as well take your best shot. Second is own it. Realize that how your brain thinks, regardless that, see brain thinking and then I stumbled all over it. Own it. Regardless of how your brain thinks that one decision doesn't matter, or that doing something and trying to tell yourself after the facts are known, after the circumstances play out, that you were actually misled by somebody, misinformed by a colleague, you didn't have all the facts, and therefore you shouldn't be held accountable for the choices you made, you're wrong. You own it. You did decide to drink that last cocktail last night, and everything else that followed is yours today. And finally, learn from them. This morning, for a few minutes, we are very focused on making choices, big ones and small ones. At least those of you that didn't order that last cocktail last night. I'm suggesting that you should acknowledge to yourself that every single choice or lack of choice is a decision, and one that is now part of you. Most of the hundreds of choices you make today are not going to change your life or matter much past whether that donut was worth the taste or the calories. The ones that matter, the ones that I'm talking about, will be a reflection of who you are, your personal circumstances, and that you let circumstances influence your choices. Most of your choices you'll be proud of, and you'll repeat them, and you'll pass them on that you made them, and you'll encourage others to follow, and that's the essence of leadership. Some you will not. Some I will not. Those are the ones to learn from. I believe in diversity. In my mind, growing up in Detroit and Pittsburgh and attending an all-black school made me believe that in my career, I was not a prejudiced person. So when I would be confronted with choices, I knew exactly what to say about diversity. I knew exactly what the right thing to do was, and I felt that my exposure to blacks and being a minority meant that it was okay. The truth is, I was wrong. It was not until I sat in an audience at Women to Watch a few years ago and heard Gloria Steinman speak that I realized I was wrong. She is an iconic women's rights leader and author. That day changed my view, and therefore how I make choices around diversity. She discussed unconscious bias, and that the lens you see the world through is yours. And if you just glance through your lens, you'll see the world as you want to see it. To see the real world requires vision. It requires personal honesty, and that you can use that view to make choices. I was wrong for years about diversity. I gave one set of keys back, and I attended one all-black school, and thought that that meant that I understood diversity. I thought Mrs. Steinman was speaking to someone else in the auditorium, and then that you learn that you can choose to make a difference through the choices you make. So I say thank you for listening to my story about choices. And I'm conscious of the fact that this conversation will not change how you choose, but I do hope it will cause you to focus on the awesome power that you have to choose and the impact your choices will have on the business world. I also want you to remember that your choices affect others. If you're an examiner, you affect the lives of injured workers by your choice of tone and responsiveness and honesty, more so than any technical interpretation of facts as you know them to be. That person, that claimant, will tell others about you and their employer and their doctor and maybe a lawyer. So be thoughtful in your interaction. For leaders, you affect the lives of those who have chosen to work for us. I often say that the most awesome responsibility that I have is that I'm responsible for 22,000 families getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. What I mean behind that statement is 75,000 people directly, through colleagues and their dependents, rely on the choices I make for their health and welfare of their families. It's an awesome responsibility that I take very seriously. You see, you are who you are, and the choices you make are yours. Make them because we perceive who you are, not so much who you are, but who we perceive you to be based on the choices you make and the ones you don't make. Make good choices. I had a choice. this conference offered me a session, and then I wanted to talk about this. I don't want to talk for 45 minutes, just so you can hear me talk. And so I've decided that this is what I want to say, and I choose to end this speech now, and appreciate